You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darren Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you, taking a lap of the extra mile for today, March 24th, 2022. We had another great weekend of racing, and we're heading right into the next one. And to help me get you there, of course, I'm going to welcome in my co-host for the evening, Michael Ward. Michael?
Hello, what's going on, everybody?
Christopher Lehman will be with us later on in the show, but Michael, it is good to hear from you again. We had a excellent spate of races this weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely great. One race, I'm not gonna lie, both races actually kind of surprised me.
And we're gonna talk about those here in a minute. And before that, of course, if you want to talk to us live, get in on the chat. We'll read your messages out as the show continues. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. We are going to wait for Chris to talk about Formula One because, oh boy, there was a lot we did not see coming, is what I will say about that race. But we will start with NASCAR and IndyCar, which also ran on Sunday, a full day of racing on Sunday. Michael, I don't know if you saw any of the IndyCar race. I ended up catching the last third of it as me and my girlfriend were actually watching Seeing Red. And reports from Twitter that the race was better. The clips that I saw, it was fine. They're still just locked to the low lane due to the sticky stuff that's still down on the track. We did have a good finish, but I'm not really sure how the rest of the race really stacked up to that finish.
I unfortunately did not catch the IndyCar race. I was too busy dealing with some other family matters at the time, but from what I heard, yeah, it was better than last year. Mm-hmm. But, yay. But, they still got a long way to go before, Texas is pulling in massive crowds of people.
If they ever pull in massive crowds ever again. To get you caught up on how that race ended, Joseph Newgarden ended up pipping his teammate for the win there. Sorry, the name just disappeared from my head. Scott McLaughlin, sorry. Ended up pipping Scott McLaughlin at the line to take the win in Texas, robbing McLaughlin of his second win in IndyCar and second straight on the season. But McLaughlin continues to lead the points at 97 over Will Power, who has 69, and Alex Plow, last year's champion, with 67. Those are your points heading into Long Beach, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But as we go into this week, or as we continue to talk about Texas, the crowd, this race moved to March, was a little bit cooler. It was on a Sunday, and the crowd was okay. A lot of empty seats, a lot of closed-off sections, and that has led to a lot of people, Michael, to talk about the future of this race. Personally, I am team just get rid of this race and just go run at COTA.
I would agree. I don't know what you can do to this track, honestly, to make it better. Honestly. Well, we've seen what completely redesigning a track has done to Atlanta, so, maybe that can happen to Texas.
We'll talk about that here in a little bit, and that might be the one thing to save that racetrack, because it does need a repave with what they've done to that. And we have made it no secret on this show that we are not the biggest fans of Texas Motor Speedway, and it's just because what was done to the track didn't need to be done when the track needed to be repaved, which, like a lot of these tracks, to the chagrin of about everyone who thinks dead pavements can live forever, at some point these tracks do need to be maintained, and they need to be resurfaced, unlike your Saturday night short track that probably hasn't been paved since the track has been there. It costs far too much to keep tracks of this size, maintaining the pavement that is damaged. So they decided to repave it, and then they shortened the banking on turn 1. That pretty much killed the racing for both series, even before the high downforce package for NASCAR came in. And then they put down the PJ1, which makes it far too loose for IndyCar to run. So now it's ruined the track for all the series to run there, and it's really created a situation where they're either going to need to spend the money to do an Atlanta-type reconfiguration, or, as we've been advocating for, turn it into a Walmart and just take all the races to COTA.
I mean, like, after I've seen what happened with Atlanta, we're gonna get to that. I know you guys keep saying, Michael, stop talking about Atlanta. I really feel like if you change the track's layout, maybe it'll make it better. You know?
Except for California. Do not turn California into a short track after the race we just saw. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
So
I think, maybe just change the track around.
It might help.
Because I hate to go see a track like that go,
I mean, at this point, I can go either way. Like, it either needs to be reconfigured or scrapped. We can't keep having races here. And the problem is, they're going to have to put the PJ1 back down for when NASCAR gets here. Because if it's that slick for the Indy cars, we're not going to be able to make a second groove at Texas for the Cup cars unless that stuff is down. Because they're just going to get in there and slide up the racetrack. So I wish the PJ1 debacle never started in NASCAR, and now there's a couple of tracks that are kind of worse off for having it on their surface. So we will see what happens going forward, but it's kind of here to stay. These tracks that put the stuff down, they're going to have to put it down now to get grip there to make second lanes. So we'll see what happens when NASCAR makes its second trip to Texas, which I think is just for the All-Star race. Or do they have I don't think they actually have a points race anymore. Now they moved to COTA, thank goodness. I think it's just the All-Star race there, so we'll see when we get to the All-Star race, but it's going to be... Yeah, they only have the All-Star race. Oh, no, they have a playoff. I forgot they have a playoff race. The Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 500, so that'll be September 25th. So we will see... The first time this track runs will be May 22nd for the All-Star race, which for some reason is on a Sunday. Should be on a Saturday night, but that's not my prerogative. So, IndyCar moves on. They'll take a break. They'll come back at Long Beach. And, Michael, this is a race I kind of look at much like Monaco. It's a crown jewel event, so we have to race it. But I never really come away from Long Beach saying, man, that was a great race. I'm so glad we run here.
Nah, it's probably one of those races where you just enjoy driving but never watching the race, honestly. Because it's a street circuit and it's just, hard to pass.
It feels like one of those, well, hard to pass is more than one thing. It's almost impossible to pass with some of these, or most of these street circuits. I know it's got a long time on the circuit. It's one of the first tracks that I remember watching. The crowds are still great. It's probably a great show in person, I will say that. It's just one of those tracks that doesn't translate well to TV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's boring. You're just watching people following each other on the track. Hate to say that, but, that's what it is.
I mean, the
Very
pit
little
strategy.
overtaking, pit strategy, and yeah, that's all it is.
Pit strategy is great, but when you can't, when the cars are, you can only look at the timesheets and to see what the pace that they're doing for hitting those pit strategies. Even St. Petersburg, which is the first race of the season, we did have some racing there, but a timesheet race is great for us diehards, but not great for the casual fan.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to lose their mind when they hear that, but hey, there has to be a balance. That I'm not saying get rid of Long Beach, but this is probably going to be a race where the casual folks probably aren't going to tune in. So we'll see what happens. So we will move on to happier days, and that is the excellence we saw at Atlanta. Michael, I know you're ready to talk about this. The Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 on the newly rebuilt Atlanta Super Speedway, I guess we can call it, as we welcome in our third Super Speedway track to the schedule. That's what I'm going to call it, because that's what a race is like. Michael, what'd you think?
This racetrack surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went into this thinking it wasn't going to be any good. Well, I went into a neutral. And as soon as I saw the truck race, I was like, I think we're on to something here. Mm-hmm. Then the Xfinity race happened. And I was just like, I'm liking this more and more. And then the Cup race came. And, midway through watching it, I was like, you know what? This track is great. This is a really great track. And I didn't think Atlanta would work as a super speedway, but it actually works. And it actually looks really fun. Well, to watch, but maybe not for the drivers. But, I thoroughly enjoyed it, though.
Personally, I loved this race. But I don't want... Okay, there's one track I would like to see get this makeover, Texas. But other than that, that's it. Do not make all the mile and a halves this. I don't want us to get into a situation that NASCAR likes to do recently where we go too much of a good thing. Just do Texas, because God knows it needs it. And that's it of the mile and a half super speedways. Leave the other mile and a halves the way they are.
Yeah.
And roll on with it. But what I will say is I was surprised by the divisiveness on Twitter, and especially what has become the unofficial barometer of the NASCAR fan base, the Jeff Gluck was it a good race poll. I'm going to head on over to Gluck's website, or Gluck's Twitter, sorry, just to see how that poll ended up. When I saw it, it was like 65% yes. 68.5% said it was a good race. Now, as Gluck says here, a lot of people it was a protest vote because of they didn't like the new Atlanta concept. But folks, if they didn't do this to Atlanta and it was a low lane race because of the characteristics of the new pavement where the most grip was on the bottom, or God forbid they had to put the resin down, the poll would have looked the same way. There would have been even more complaining on Twitter. And I don't like getting on here bashing the fans, but NASCAR's got to have the most fickle fan base in motorsports at this point. Because either way, they would have hated this track. The only way they would have liked it is if it was becoming a bigger Darlington, where there's literally pieces of the track coming back up because people refuse to let them repave it.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing how this race just wasn't fun to watch. Like, I'm watching the highlights, and this race was great.
It was a super speedway race. Basically, if you like super speedway racing, you liked this race. If you don't like super speedway racing, you probably didn't like this race. But that's where we are with this track. And it was a lot of fun. It was a race that I was dreading coming in, as I talked about last week. And it surprised me. It was really great, and I can't wait until we get back here in July and we do this again under the stifling Atlanta heat. There was you saw a lot of good runs being made. It wasn't like the previous super speedway package where you had runs like 15 rows back. You really had to get organized to make the passes on the leaders, but they were getting these lanes going, and it was shifting for all 500 miles. And because of the cautions ended up falling, we didn't see a lot. Actually, we didn't see any green flag pit stops, so the field never really got broken up.
I'm sorry, Daryl. I'm watching the highlights, and I'm mesmerized by the racing. What did you say?
I was just saying that we didn't have a lot of green flag pit stops, so...
No, we didn't. We certainly didn't.
Yeah. So that allowed the field to stay together, although we did have a couple of incidents that were pretty serious. But, most of the cars kept going. Unfortunately, Kyle Busch ended up getting taken out of the race.
Yeah, it's not been a good season for Busch so far.
It has not been a good season for Kyle Busch at all. And it's not been a good season for RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But William Byron ends up... Actually, make sure I got that right. Yes, William Byron ends up picking up win number 1 of the year. Thought Bubba Wallace was going to pick that up, but the last lap did not go his way. So Byron ends up picking up the win, third win in the last 4 for Hendrick Motorsports, dating back to Auto Club in February. And I'm surprised, Michael, that we're sitting here with over a third of the season done, and we're still waiting on Chase Elliott to get a win. But a road course is coming up.
Yeah, so maybe he can get it done there.
Most likely he gets it done at Texas, but we'll talk about that in a little bit, as that is one of those tracks that I'm glad is getting a second opportunity on the Cup circuit. But it was a fun race I was about to say Texas. A fun race in Atlanta. It was not, however, a fun race for Brad Keselowski because, Michael, they got the boom lowered on them this week. 100 points for the driver, 100 points for the owner, who's one and the same, and 10 playoff points gone for Brad Keselowski for an L2 violation having to do with the body panels on the car. And to tell you how devastating that penalty is, Brad has now dropped to 35th on the board from 16th.
Jeez.
He is the last driver of everyone who has won a race, and crucially, outside of the top 30, which you have to be in for your win, if he gets one, to count for the playoffs. Brad Keselowski is in trouble. The season did not start well for that team at all, and then this happens. They're the first team to get bit by the new points penalty structure. That's gotta hurt for that team, and it's turned a bad season into a nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah, it hasn't started off real great for RFK Racing, and it's getting even worse with that penalty. Like, you got to be careful now. Like, these guys are out to catch you.
And we'll have to see if this team can recover itself. And I have no idea if they can. They haven't started well, which, unfortunately, I'm not surprised with how RFK has ran the last couple of years. I think it was naive for us to think they were immediately going to start winning. But now you have this problem with the 6. For all intents and purposes, Chris Buescher is now their best chance of getting into the playoffs by points, and he's 19th. 58 points back of the leader and only 8 points from the 16th spot, which on here has Austin Cindric in it, but Austin Cindric has 1. So we'll order this by the playoff standings. And they've actually got to catch Kevin Harvick, who would be the 16th seed. And that's a far ways back for Mr. Buescher, who is 19th. Harvick has 127 points. Buescher has 113. So that is, I'm going to try to do the math here, 14 points that Chris Buescher has to find. Of course, that gap is only going to grow, let's be honest. They're in trouble. And I don't see a way out of it for them to end their first season together, RFK, with a playoff berth.
They seem like they're having a hard time. And the penalty is definitely going to make it even worse, Daryl. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't make it into the playoffs because Brad K is a great driver, and I think they have something decent going on at RFK. Mm-hmm. But, they got to be careful with these penalties.
So we'll see how that goes. And, folks, it is March, or late March at this point, and that means it's tournament time. Can't catch one of the March Madness games? Well, we've got you covered across our entire family of networks, USRN, USRN2, Wellington Sports Radio, and IE Sports Radio, all on Mixlr. All will be doing live broadcasts on the Mixlr.com app, so check out all of your March Madness action on Mixlr with our family of networks. Michael, have you watched any of the basketball games?
I have not. How are they so far?
They've been good. I'm not much of a college basketball fan, I will admit, but I have tuned into some of the games of the tourney, men and women's as well, and saw South Carolina beat the ever-loving crap out of Howard. Mm-hmm. Howard scored 21 points for the game in a 4-quarter game. At one point, it was 46-6.
Jeez.
I'm not making that up. That was after 2 quarters, 46-6. Thanks for showing up, Howard, but y'all ran into a buzzsaw. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back right after this here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
To the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Folks, the world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. I swear I'm much more put together than this. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere else in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Follow them on social media at SoCal Warriors, at Southern California _Warriors, and Facebook at Southern California Warriors. So we are back here in the Extra Mile IE Sports Radio, your feed for all that is sports. Daryl and Michael here with you. Going to talk a little bit about some other series before we get back into it for Formula One. And Michael, we did have Sebring for IMSA, or the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, this past weekend. Cadillac, Chip Ganassi Racing picking up the win with the 0-2, and also picking up the win in the two pro categories in GTE Pro. After a dismal showing in Daytona, a little bit of balance of performance help propelled the Corvette number 3, or the Corvette GTD car in GTD Pro to a victory. So GM cleans up in the pro categories in Sebring.
Wow, what a story right there. GM putting the hammer down on these other competitors out here at Sebring.
And running theme for both of the teams is they had awful days at Daytona, and they come back, pick up the win here in Sebring. Go through some of the other winners. PR1 Mathiasen Motorsports picks up the win in LMP2. LMP3 goes to Sean Creech Motorsports, and GTD won by the Cittilar Racing Ferrari. So congratulations to those crews. Just checking in the chat. Marcus Lost Great says, what up, Doe? Hey, Marcus, we're doing great. Taryn is listening in. Just got off an important phone call. I hope that went well, and it has been a great show so far. I don't know if we're going to run into Chris, so I think we're just going to spend the second half of this show. Michael, we're going to get into this Formula One race. I don't think we can stall it any longer. We're going to get into this race, and a lot happened that I don't think we expected to happen. Chief among them, even though I called it, Ferrari takes home the win in Bahrain.
Yeah. It's great. The Italian national anthem kind of slaps.
It is a good national anthem, though. It was so fun to finally see them pick up a win after so long. I think it was like 2019 since the last time that team won, which is where they got their hands slapped for the whatever they did with the engines, which we still don't know about. But, Michael, what was more surprising to you? The fact that Ferrari won or the Red Bull self-destruction in the second half of the race?
There were so many surprises, honestly. Verstappen fight. Can we talk about a Haas fighting a Red Bull? Legitimately, that's
Good
one
day
thing.
for Haas.
The last 6 cars on the field were ran by Mercedes engines, which is another bad sign for Mercedes this year. And honestly, I feel like when it comes to Leclerc, he's very underrated compared to Hamilton and Verstappen. I feel like he's up there. It's just he hasn't had a chance to really show it. And I think this weekend he finally was able to show it. You know, when he had that one-on-one duel with Verstappen, I was happy because I was just like, okay, I hope everybody can finally see that he's capable of racing Verstappen. Because I feel like some people just don't believe, you know, he's on the same caliber as him. And then,
it was nice to see Leclerc get his due. It was nice to see him get back what should have been his a couple of years ago in 2019, ironically, when he was leading this race and the engine decided to, I don't want to say die, but it decided to, you know, start breaking down, and Lewis Hamilton ended up picking up the win there in Bahrain in that race. As far as Lewis Hamilton, ran what I guess we can call a consistent race in 5th and 6th, got help when the two Red Bulls, their two engines gave out, and ended up getting on the podium for 3rd. George Russell comes home 4th, so good ending for Mercedes, a race where they thought they were going to be out of it. Fact of the matter for that team is, which is also a problem with Aston Martin, they've got to get the porpoising under control, then they can figure out where they are speed-wise.
And it's funny because I already feel like the car is pretty fast. They just need to get that under control.
Well, they had some of the worst porpoising of on the grid and were only half a second off in qualifying. If they can get that fixed, that car is going to fly. And I said that in our text chat during the race. They get that porpoising fixed, and this car is going to be right there with the Ferrari and whatever the Red Bull is. The problem is how long it's going to take them to fix it, and how serious, you know, is the issues. Because as we saw it, the only way to really cure it in the interim is to raise the ride height. But once you raise the ride height, you've got a car that operates on ground effects, which requires air to flow underneath the car.
Right.
It kills the underneath aero efficiency, and you go slower. I think that's obviously what's affecting Mercedes. I think that's it's also what's affecting Aston Martin, Aston Martin was one of those 6 Mercedes engines down at the bottom of the grid. And then McLaren, they've just got something fundamentally wrong with their car. Like, they came into Bahrain after the test, and it was junk season for that car.
I think that was the biggest surprise out of the whole weekend, was seeing the McLaren in 17th and 20th.
That didn't even compute, to be honest. Just with how that team ran, you would expect them to be up there in the top 3, probably pressuring Mercedes, not putting around where Haas used to be.
And it's just like, I thought they would be, honestly, Joe, I thought they would be up there with Ferrari, or maybe further up than Ferrari. I thought they were going to win the race in testing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, McLaren, they seem to have just gotten all wrong.
And that's the thing. Testing times are great, but it doesn't matter until these cars get on the grid for an actual race to show where they are. And what I will say is, Ferrari is probably the top of the heap right now after one race. Mercedes is not as far off as we thought they would be. And Red Bull, and this is of the top 3, they've got concerns. Reliability concerns. As we heard on the radio, they did have a brake issue. I kind of discount that because all the teams seem to be struggling with brake heat, as they're just trying to get used to the bigger brakes and the bigger tires that are on these Formula One cars. So it's just something they're all dealing with. So I'm not really going to belabor that point. However, this fuel system issue that killed the power, and whatever was going on with the steering on Verstappen's car, supposedly they have a fix for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I would be on pins and needles if I'm a Red Bull fan. Remember, this is their first year of doing the engines themselves. And these engines are extremely complex. Even if they're just the old Honda engines, they can't exactly call up Honda and say, yo, what up? What happened to the engine? They've got to figure it out themselves. And hopefully this fuel system thing was just a $4 part that failed, or €4 part that failed. If it's something more serious than that, they are in trouble. Because this is not the year to start falling behind due to reliability issues. Their cars were bulletproof the last couple of years. They start taking hits, they're going to fall out this championship. Or any team, for that matter, with championship aspirations, which there's 3 of them. Any of them start running into reliability issues, it could be curtains for their championship in 2022.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like the Red Bull was like the fastest car this year. Even though it lost, but, you know. Because I was looking at it and I'm like, it's definitely the faster car in a straight line. I think the Red Bull has faster straight line speed, and the Ferrari just has more grip in the corners.
Mm-hmm.
So
you see how that grip helped out, you know, Leclerc Leclerc made an extremely aggressive move on that initial start to just move over and shut the door so that Verstappen couldn't shoot up the inside of him.
Yeah.
That grip is going to help them in a fight.
Yeah, like that car seems really grippy, like, and it's weird because back in the day it used to be Ferrari had the power and Red Bull had the grip. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of you know, backwards now. Now you have Red Bull with the straight line speed and Ferrari with the grip.
And we know that straight line speed is great, but if you can't get through the corners, it doesn't matter. And right now, the grippier car takes the first win with Leclerc. And Carlos Sainz had a good race as well.
Good and very quiet race.
Yeah, which he's just quietly consistent. He's going to be right there, right behind Leclerc. If he slips up, Carlos is going to be there to pick up the slack for Ferrari. That's the best they can have. 2 drivers relatively running the same speeds and can stay together. That's going to help them with their championship. And unfortunately, yet again, on the Red Bull side, I don't want to feel like I'm beating up on Red Bull, but it's just how the race went.
Yeah.
Perez kind of looked like the weak link again.
He was, but I don't like saying that the second Red Bull is cursed, but it feels like the second Red Bull is cursed.
I mean, there's a laundry list of drivers: Daniel Kvyat, Gasly, Ricciardo when he was in it, Mark Webber. That second Red Bull seat, for whatever reason, the drivers can do okay, but it's definitely not a seat where, well, given how things are kind of run over there, where you're allowed to be great, given the myriad of controversies surrounding second drivers over there, even before Max Verstappen came into the fold. You got that playing against you, and then for whatever reason, he just couldn't keep pace with Verstappen. Ended up getting jumped by one of the Ferraris and was unable to get around Sainz. Perez is going to have some work to do coming up. He's going to be in fights with Carlos Sainz all year long, and
then think about it. Think about Mercedes. If they get the porpoising issue figured out, and Russell starts getting in the fight.
Oh, if it's Hamilton and Russell fighting him, that's gonna be
bad for Perez, because you're gonna have Verstappen up there fighting alone, and then you're gonna have him being attacked by both the Ferraris, both the Mercedes, and Perez is not gonna be able to do anything.
Well, the hope is that both the Ferraris and both the Mercedes, if you're Verstappen, start fighting each other and he'll be able to pull away. But there's no guarantee that Verstappen's just going to be in front. Yes, he's a good qualifier, but these cars are a lot closer between them and Ferrari than we think.
Yeah. Like, they're really close. So I just think that it's going to be a close championship, and it's really going to come down to the teams, how they fight against each other.
It's going to be fun. Now, when they get their car figured out, Red Bull, hopefully this weekend at Saudi Arabia, they're going to be tough because they're not going to take this line down. However, it is not going to be pretty at all if they can't get this car right.
Yeah.
But I think they'll get it right. I don't think it's going to take that long because Red Bull is a much better team. They've got a lot to prove. So we'll see how things go here coming up in Saudi Arabia, which the last time we were in Saudi Arabia was when Michael Massey was making his point for why he should no longer be the Formula One race director. And that's before we get into what happened at Abu Dhabi. However, we're not going to have any of those issues, mainly because it's only going to be race 2 of the season. And we'll see how things continue from there. But before I end the show, a couple of news and notes. Both of them America. Actually, no, we're not done yet. We got to talk about Haas. Haas actually had a good day.
Yeah. It was crazy seeing Gunther Steiner actually smile for once.
7th and 11th. Actually, let me make sure that's right. I believe it's 7th and 11th for the two Haas cars. And Mick would have been up there a little bit higher if he didn't get spun on lap 1 by Esteban Ocon. But after the 3 weeks Haas had coming into this season, coming out of there with points had to feel like they won the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I bet it did. I bet it did. Because they have been having a hard time.
Sorry, I shortchanged Kevin Magnussen a couple of spots. He got 5th and 11th.
Top 5. They're starting the constructors.
Yeah. They are higher on the constructors than Red Bull. And yes, it's because three of the Red Bulls died, including AlphaTauri. But you know what? I'm going to give it to them because they've been through so much over the last 2 years.
Oh, my God. Like get covered up for Haas.
Yeah.
I think they deserve that.
I mean, let's just go through what happened to them the 2 weeks prior. So they come in and they have a so-so first test at Barcelona. After that, they have a so-so test at Barcelona. During that race, their title sponsor's country starts a war. They lose their sponsor. Their freight is late going to Bahrain. They have to call up Kevin Magnussen at late notice to drive the car. And he signed a multi-year deal, so he's going to be back in Formula One for a little bit.
It sucks because the number 20 is going to be taken on again.
Yep. And when you get to qualifying, Magnussen has some weird hydraulics failure that stops him from actually shifting gears. It's looked like it was shaping up to be a disaster, and at the end of the day, he comes home with 5th. This team has got to feel absolutely ecstatic right now.
Yes. Coming off of what's been happening to them over the last few years, this 5th place has got to feel good.
Yep. And we'll see if they can keep that momentum going this week as they head into Saudi Arabia. You can catch that race Sunday morning. We have a couple of pieces of America-centric news with Formula One. First, we're going to be racing in Las Vegas in Thanksgiving 2023 next year. So, Michael, we're going to have 3 F1 races on the calendar right here in America.
That's great.
You sound so enthused.
No, I sound so enthused because, yeah, it's great. But I can't go to any of them. The prices are way too goddamn high.
Oh, just wait until those Las Vegas prices hit.
So yeah, I'm ecstatic, but not really.
Yeah. And then at Miami, for the Miami Grand Prix, they're going to have a yacht section, apparently.
What?
When the series heads there later this year. And I've seen the pictures of this. My one question is, how are they going to get the yachts in and out? Because it's not like there's, a marina leading into where this is. It's literally like the middle of the racetrack. So they're going to towing people's yachts in for this? How's this going to work?
I guess. If you want to see
made a comment here. He says, and if the car falls apart, the driver could be at risk as well as other drivers' safety has not been a priority when it comes to these leagues, right? I mean, I don't know if the car will fall apart that badly. If he's talking about what I believe he's talking about, which is the reliability issues with Red Bull, but the main concern is just if the engine doesn't work, they can't go nowhere. So hopefully they'll be able to fix that up as we get ready for Nearest the Win once again. And we have a points leader right now, and it's me. Picked up 4 points last week to have a 8-3 lead over Chris. And Michael, you're still looking for your first points of the weekend.
Yeah, it's not been a great start for me.
And once I can find our group chat, I'll be able to read off the points. There it is. So we were going in this week to Jeddah and Coda. Last week, Michael picked Suarez. I got the 1 point for Chastain. And Chris picked Ryan Blaney. Fortunately, it did not go well for him. This week, it's a road course. You got to take Chase Elliott. So that's who I'm going with. Michael, who you got?
I'm also going to go with Chase Elliott.
And now we get to test if the IE Sports Radio curse is still alive, because the two of us just picked the same driver. So we'll see what happens.
I thought that was only if all three of us picked.
Well, we don't know who Chris is going to pick. And he might just pick Chase Elliott. Let me see if he's actually texting me his picks.
I heard my phone vibrate.
So, now we're coming into F1 Jeddah Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. Last time out, I picked Leclerc, got the 2 points. Michael, you picked Russell. And Chris picked Verstappen. Going in, I can't pick Leclerc this week. I want to pick Sainz, but I really think Red Bull's not going to take what happened last week lying down. I got Verstappen taking the win in Jeddah.
I'm going to go with Sainz.
All right, so we flip-flop there. And folks, if you want to
Well,
get
I was going to pick Verstappen, but you already picked him, so I was like,
So, folks, if you want to be involved with Nearest the Win, make sure you head over to Twitter, hashtag Nearest the Win, with who you think is going to win for this week in Formula 1 and NASCAR. And this guy's already won. Want to give a big shout out to Marcy Vargas, or Marcy_Vargas 88. He is a Packers fan from Mexico, and he is this month's IE Sports Radio Fan of the Month. So, congratulations to Marcy for that. And folks, for the last 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviews with legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. Starting at just $5 a month, you get a shout out on all 32 of our shows. And higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to the podcasting university, and a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And don't forget, we have our draft contest with the 2022 NFL Draft right around the corner. IE Sports Radio is excited to announce the 3rd annual Mock Draft Challenge. This is how it works. Predict all 32 first-round picks, no trades, no modifications, no tricks. The participant with the best mock draft will receive a shout-out on all of our shows and their choice of an IE Sports Radio hat or shirt. For more information or to submit your mock draft, please reach out to Mike Pat at _IE Sports Radio. Good luck, everybody, on that. I am not going to be picking a mock draft because the draft is the ultimate crapshoot in any sport, to be honest. But that is going to do it. Remember, if you want to talk to us on Twitter, I'm at DKJr12. Michael's at Michael_Ward25. Chris is at Fiji Sims. And remember, keep it locked to all of our social medias for the network on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you've missed any episode of any IE Sports Radio show, you can check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Well, we're going to call it a night for this evening for Michael and Daryl. Oh, I want to apologize there. I did not realize Marcy is actually a woman, so I apologize. She is our fan of the month. I'm so sorry about that, Marcy. If you are listening, I apologize. I just got corrected on that. Thank you, Taryn. And with that, we're going to say goodnight for this evening here on The Extra Mile. For Michael, I'm Daryl. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.